for you. Yeah, and I'm going to sit over here. I think I'm going to use this one far over here because it's kind of a funny shape. It's a little bit less comfortable. All right. So our river kids are over there. All right, Mike and Kathy. And here at the beginning, I want to remind you that we are going to have kind of a Q&A after this. So I'll do the interview, and then afterward, we'd love to field specific questions that come up. Maybe you brought them in before you got here this morning. Maybe the power just went out. So anyway, we'll field questions after this, if that makes sense. Maybe we'll just try to talk a little bit louder in the meantime, and that's going to just be okay. So, Kathy and Mike, good to see you guys. I'm looking for my interview questions over here. Why don't we just start with a quick introduction?
I'm Kathy. I'm a pastor at Orchard Hill Church, 3 Mile and Alpine. And this is my son, Mike. Say hi. And Mike is 29 years old. Looking forward to his 30th birthday because we're having a big blowout party then.
The Dirty 30.
Yeah.
All right.
So
cool.
We're excited about that. And when Ben called and asked if we would kind of do this, I said, yeah, that sounds like an exciting thing for us. And I kind of suggested to bring Mike along with me, and just so you could hear his heart and see. Oops, that one went back on. So
that's good.
And hear his heart and just see his.
Here, Mike. You can hold on.
Who
Thanks.
he is as a person and about his faith in Jesus Christ. So we're going to kind of let him take it first. Just to warn you, I have prepped him a little bit, but you're never quite sure what's going to come out. So. Yeah, so.
All right. So why don't we just start with this. Mike, what are like some of your favorite things that you enjoy? What do you like to do?
My favorite.
All right.
My favorite part history and Special Olympics basketball.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All the Eagles.
Awesome. Where do you play on the court? Are you like a point guard, or where do you?
I was just thinking of ball stealer.
Nice. Full-time ball stealer. All right. How cool. How exciting. You have any other hobbies? I mean, obviously basketball is huge. Is there anything else that you like to do?
My favorite to do at home and history of all the presidents.
Oh, cool. Cool. Very cool. Presidential history. That's something that I'm not very good at myself. So I figured there must be someone out there that's good at it. And this guy right here, he knows. Very cool. And so you're also involved at your church. So I'm trying to, here's a question that I had written, and it can be answered however. But who's Jesus to you, Mike?
Because Jesus died of sins, keep it on faith.
Mm-hmm.
And he died, he ate my hands, and it, all the colors, all the stuff, have rainbows.
Cool.
Where
Very
does
cool.
he live? Where does Jesus live?
Jesus lived in heaven right now with my grandparents.
Yeah. Yeah. And where
Very
else?
cool.
Everywhere.
Mm.
Does he live in your heart?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
How do you love Jesus?
I love Jesus so much because he's my favorite friend.
Hmm.
How do you serve
That's
him?
awesome.
He's serving died sins to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you use your hands and your heart
Yeah,
to
both.
love him?
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, both.
Sometimes at the same time, maybe.
Yeah.
Hands and heart.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's good getting to know you. Very cool.
One of the favorite things
about Mike is that his faith in Jesus Christ is very visible. And he says, Jesus comes out in my heart and comes out in my hands. And I love that because that is what our faith is about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That we believe with our hearts and we speak with our mouths. But people of the world only see Jesus when we use our hands in the faith. And so sometimes we as normal people or normal intellect, yes, in quotes.
It's a fluid term, normal.
Yes, normal, yeah. And, but sometimes we become way too intellectual with our faith, and we need to be more about the heart and about our hands. And so Michael has taught our family that.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that being said, I feel a little weird asking the first question, but
okay.
I think it's a question that we're all going to be like, well, I know the answer to that, probably. But even through that, I think it's a good question that should be asked. So I'll just say it. Do you believe that the disabled can come to know Christ even with those disabilities? And I told you I felt awkward, and it's weird. But do you believe that?
Yeah, we do believe that. And of course, disabilities range from severely impaired to just, below normal, and that range is great. But I believe that the disabled come to know Jesus Christ actually in a much more, as the scripture tells us, childlike ways. Remember when Jesus taught us to have faith as a child. Michael exhibits that in our household and in his life in so many beautiful and dynamic ways. We as people, especially as Reformed believers, tend to be very intellectual, and we want everybody to have the knowledge of faith. We sometimes have a hard time from moving our faith from our heads to our hearts. And sometimes we think, and if you remember in the old days, you had to go through catechism or all those kinds of things, and we need, before you made your profession of faith. And I think in some ways we've missed out, because a lot of times we need to remember that our faith is not just intellectual assent, how much we know about the Bible or how much we know about Jesus Christ. But it is really more about, do we have a relationship with him? And many of the disabled people in our experience understand relationship much better than us as normal individuals. As far as their going into heaven and being able to speak that, there are many disabled individuals, probably more severely impaired than our Michael, that wouldn't even be able to have that ability to do. And so do we see them as God would be leaving them out? No, we don't. As Reformed believers, we are covenantal people. We believe in the covenant just as why we baptize our infants into the family of God. I also believe that covenant covers all kinds of disabilities, and for those who may not be able to speak their faith or to even be able to acknowledge or understand that there is a God. And so just as we believe and accept that our infants, if they pass away, are covered by the covenantal promise of God, so would those that are of the disabled category, that we see that. There's many other different beliefs out there. Our Jewish friends and our Baptist brothers and sisters would believe in something called an age of accountability, that God would take all those that pass away before that particular age of accountability arrives right to heaven. And for
It's like
them,
12 or something like
it's
that?
like 13.
Or 13?
Yeah. In some of my research, and it has to do
That's
with
interesting.
how our faith develops over time, and those stages of faith development.
Yeah.
And also for our Jewish brothers and sisters, well, our Jewish friends would say that 13 is when you become a man. You either are bar mitzvah, yeah, you know what I'm
Bar
talking
mitzvah,
about.
and
yeah,
there's
and bat
another one.
mitzvah.
Bat mitzvah.
Bat
There it
mitzvah.
is.
At the age of 13, that's when they become adults. And so that's their age of accountability. And our
Makes sense.
Baptists, what I was doing some research, our Baptist brothers and sisters kind of believe in that same age of accountability. Until you can come to that age and either profess or deny Christ, you're covered by that
Yeah.
theology of acceptance before God.
So when, it's almost like when Jesus says, let the little children come unto me, is there, so you're saying that there's kind of like some similarity with let the disabled come unto me,
Yeah.
let the children, let everyone come unto me.
Yeah, let everyone come unto me. And just that, the beauty of that Christ sees in us as a child with faith. And I know that most of you are either parents or grandparents or have a loved one that's close to you, that you take the little ones to church and they believe everything they hear. And isn't that the gorgeous, beautiful picture of what faith is, and how that can affect us? Us as adults with a greater intellect, I'm not so sure it's such a great intellect, we start to say, I'm not really sure about that. How does it flow with creation and science, and how does faith, we're trying to think it all through. And sometimes faith and sometimes God is mysterious. That's not an issue for little ones. And that's not an issue for a lot of people with disabilities either. They see the beauty and the love and accept God just on the presence of Him being God.
And they don't need necessarily all the questions that we put ourselves through.
Yeah.
And my guess is that they don't experience a lot of the skepticism or even cynicism that we sometimes do.
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of the questions. I'll just give you a little example.
Sure.
That's okay. Recently, in fact, my mother and my father passed away just recently, and my dad was a big fisherman. And when my dad passed away, it was very unexpected. And when Mike came to my mother, he hugged her and he said, "Grandma, it's okay. Grandpa is catching all the fish in heaven with Jesus." And I just thought, isn't that a great thing? Is he sad? Yeah, he misses Grandpa. But he had no doubt that Dad was in heaven with Jesus. There was no, why does he have to go? How come I'm left behind? It was all about my dad being in the presence of God, doing what he loved to do, and catching all the fish. And for my dad, that would be perfect heaven.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not for me. I don't want to be going fishing.
Different strokes.
Yeah. There better be some spas in heaven when I get there. Yeah.
I think I heard an amen out there.
Yeah.
So let me continue with another question, to just kind of get at the root of why it is for some of us that is difficult to grasp why it is that the developmentally disabled can have a relationship with God. I guess I'm wondering, like, what's at the source of that? Why is it difficult to think like, oh, they can grasp it too? Why is that hard?
I think deep down, our source of some of our questioning and some of our thing is really our ability to believe in what God has to say. You know, in Scripture, if you remember when Samuel was coming to choose David and to anoint David as the next king, and everyone kept saying, "Oh, he's the youngest. He's the shepherd boy.
He's weak."
He's weak. Although he was good looking.
True.
Yeah, he was good looking, but weak.
Kill him with your good looks.
Kill him with your good looks. How can this be the next king? And you know, God just tells us he doesn't look at the outside. He looks at the heart. And sometimes we are so stuck on looking at the outside that it's hard for us to really wrap our heads around and believe what God has told us to believe. He looks at the heart, and he looks at the spirit. And I think a lot of times our inabilities come with sometimes our understanding of faith, that we need to know it all. We need to you know, have it all in order and have all our questions answered, or I'm unfaithful. So I think sometimes our questions on that realm are really about our ability to believe, and about our relationship and our walk. It's amazing. If you don't already know, I think everyone should have one of these. If you don't, find someone out there in your life that you can connect with, because they are amazing and wonderful individuals. And impaired people will teach you so much more. I don't want to say than your pastor, but because he's not here. But anyways, but they just have the ability to teach and to bless you in so many ways that you just have to experience it. And if you don't experience it, you're missing out. Don't miss out.
Does it require like some attentiveness to that?
It does require some attentiveness. Thank you for that big word. And that ability to come around and really reach out to someone. If you don't have an impaired person in your life, you know, take that time to, you know, find someone that you can connect with, and someone that you can care for, and someone that you can just experience life with and experience faith with.
That's good. My wife and I have had these conversations. She's worked quite a bit with the developmentally disabled in the schools, and she teaches like theater, and she's taught different things in the public schools, like in after-school programs and stuff. And something that she said is that it's like, you know, the developmentally disabled are actually like abled, but in a different way than the rest of us. So I don't know. Could you comment on that?
It's interesting because disabled people really have, I don't want to say no filters, but they don't have that, oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't say that.
Inhibitions.
Or do that. Inhibitions,
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They just don't have those inhibitions that we place on ourselves. Mike, Bill and I and our family sit in the front row at church, and because I have duties up front, and so I'm in and out, and so we sit up in front, and if we move, I hear it from our praise team, because they tell me Mike is their worship leader, because they can see him down front, and he helps lead them in worship, just by the way that he just doesn't have any inhibitions in worship before God or in other ways as well. When I said you're never quite sure what comes out, that does happen quite often. We call them Mike stories. if I'm preaching at Orchard Hill, usually they want a Mike story before, right?
Yes.
Yes. Before I begin with the word. But one of my favorite, and this will show that they don't have inhibitions. We were at Orchard Hill being introduced as their new pastor for the very first time, and they brought my whole family up on stage, and so we let them introduce themselves, and we have two girls as well. And it got to Michael, and he said, "Hi, my name is Mike. I'm 21 years old and I can go to the bar."
Don't say that word. That's not appropriate.
And I'm like, there goes my job. That's not what you want to hear.
That is awesome.
I love you to keep your job word.
Yeah. So
that is awesome.
Yeah. So, but they just don't have those inhibitions. They're not afraid to connect with people. They're not thinking, gee, are they going to like me? They like you, so it doesn't matter. That's just the way they are. They don't think
So cool.
about, different things in their life. And they just are able to do amazing and wonderful things.
Wow. To your comment on Mike as a worship leader, I lead worship here a lot of Sundays with a team that we kind of all lead together. And for us, we look out and we just kind of see everyone there. And, sometimes it's encouraged. I'm just trying to be careful with how I say this right now. Sometimes we are compelled to worship at a deeper level, looking out, and sometimes we sort of wonder if worship is happening. Okay, there. Did I say it okay? Okay. This morning, I was driven to a deeper kind of worship, looking out and seeing you, Mike. So, I guess thank you to start out.
You're welcome.
Thank you, man. That's just cool. I could tell that you were worshiping God from where you were, and that was a huge encouragement to me. So, yeah, I've learned some things myself today, and I'm very thankful for that. But that's not the only way that you contribute in your church community. So, Kathy and Mike, maybe what other ways have you found to contribute within your church? What do you do?
I work in downstairs daycare to help children, people, all the daycares that have clean the dishes, all stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. What else do you do? Do you usher?
Sometimes, yeah.
He ushers.
Cool.
Junior high too.
And he works with our junior high group as one of their sponsors.
Cool.
And you'd be
Very cool.
amazed how much the kids love him, love him,
That's
and
cool.
adore him. And they take it on into high school. He also we do an arts camp at Orchard Hill, and I have a lady who has MS pretty severely. Right now she is in an electric wheelchair, but she still teaches for us.
Wow.
For arts camp, and she always requests Mike as her helper. I keep saying, you have two disabled people together. How does this work? And she says, it works wonderful. He's my legs and I'm his brain, and we do great together.
That's cool.
And they love being together. And so there's just really many, many ways that people that are disabled serve the Lord and can be a part of your congregation. Many times, if we're doing a dramatic presentation at church, we enlist disabled people to come alongside and help us. One series that we did, it was called Superheroes, Who's Your Superhero? And Mike was Superman every week, and came out and flew down the aisle in his Superman costume.
Sweet.
And everyone enjoyed it, and he loved it as well. And so there's just a lot of things that he does to serve and he does to encourage us. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Man, this is so cool, isn't it? I'm out of questions on my end, so now it's your turn. If anybody would like to ask a question, how about you just come up and we'll have a mic for you, and you can ask your question from like this area. We'll just let them borrow your microphone. Come on up, Heather.
All the way up just to ask
Just,
a short question.
unless you just want to ask it from where you are, that's okay too.
Mike, we've talked about you a lot this morning, and in so many ways you're very smart and you're very giving and you're very kind, but we're talking about you, and we've said some words like disabled, but in all of our churches what we want the most is to make you feel welcome and loved. Can you tell us if it bothers you to be called disabled and how we can love you, because you're teaching us as a church how to love a lot of different kinds of people.
Quick answer on the helping the people, keeping the faith, music, and my skills is all focus on God.
She wants to know, does it bother you when I call you disabled?
No,
No.
No. Why?
because
That's good. Yeah. That's what you get. Yeah. You know, he knows he has Down syndrome. He knows that he's different than other people. But for him, I'll tell you, Mike does not suffer any self-esteem issues. He doesn't. And it's okay to be who he is. And I think that comes with just a beauty that God provides in their life. And I think a little parenting has helped. I'll pat myself on the back there a little bit. But just the beauty of who they are and how they experience life. You know, Michael does not see meanness. He just doesn't experience it the same way you and I do. There are things that will, you know, maybe hurt his feelings, but not very often. He just kind of accepts people for who they are and what they may say or not say. It's just a part of, I don't know if it's a part of his personality. Yeah, but he just accepts it that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And don't be afraid to ask any question. I tell this, Mike and I speak at health classes in high schools, and oh boy, can high schoolers ask some wing-dingers to us.
they can not to. That's not appropriate.
So yeah, you're not going to hurt our feelings by asking us anything personal or.
So,
anything.
do we have any other questions from our team here? All right. Huh. Whoa. Huh. Hmm. God is good.
Yeah, they have a
Huh.
real sensitivity to the Spirit as well.
Hmm.
Because we intellectually think it away, we're not always open to experiencing the Spirit. But people with disabilities are very open to experiencing the Spirit. I really think that that is one of the things, the greatest things that we can learn from them. You know, they're all gifted in very different ways, just as we are gifted. So, you know, God doesn't pass them over in the gifted area.
Okay.
They still have their gifts, but
Yeah.
a lot of them really have that gift of discernment and that gift of just being in touch and in relationship with the Spirit and with God. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, they're amazing.
Sometimes I've wondered if it's like God has given everyone like a certain amount of something, and it just shows up in some kind of a different way depending on who we are. I don't know if that's the case, but I wonder that. I feel like we've got about 2 more questions. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to reveal myself as the secret person who asked the question. So the information I was kind of wanting to pull out of this conversation was more the decision point, or the ability to make that connection with God. I'm an engineer. I have to know how things work, and you know, there's the connection between the head and the heart, and for some of us, you know, that connection with God came early. Some of us, it's later in life. But I was really trying to understand and make people think about someone who is somewhat disabled, and those connections would be more challenging, and maybe help people understand, you know, where that actually takes place, and if the mental capacity is reduced, or some of those things aren't there, how does that happen? And in your case, it's specific to Down syndrome, and you probably have already addressed some of this to some degree. But my wife is a special ed teacher, so I have quite a bit of exposure to people with disabilities. So I guess my main question is, you know, where do you think that takes place, and that decision, the ability to connect with Jesus in the head and the heart together, and I guess share with us your experience there with Mike.
Like I kind of said before, I think for many of us, we feel that the head has to be connected in our faith walk, and I think we overplay that. I think it has to be a heart decision. I think it has to be a heart experience when we open ourselves up to Jesus Christ. I think that takes place for us as normal individuals and for the disabled as well. I know that, you know, my very young children open themselves up to Jesus Christ. Our youngest daughter accepted Christ at 3 years old. Now, has her faith grown and her intellect grown since then? Absolutely. But do I think that took place at 3? Yeah, I do. For those that don't have the mental capacities to make a decision for Christ or not make a decision for Christ, I think they're covered. I don't want to say covered, but they're included in that covenantal that covenantal theology of being in the presence of God's and a part of God's family. Now, if you're going to ask me, are there some disabled people who may not be a part of that covenantal family that may not be covered in that situation? I think that God in his mercy and God in his love does not throw away those that he has created. And
Well
so I think that for those that will never be able to make that decision, God covers them with his grace and his mercy and his love, just because of who he is. And I don't always think that they're, I'll kind of leave it at that a little bit, I think. Is there a time for decision? Yes, but I think God covers us in grace and mercy when we are not able to make that decision. You know, we haven't probably got into a lot of this before. When we talk about the disabled and, you know, why they might be disabled or what happens to them, I don't think God makes mistakes. And so is there purpose behind their disabilities? I think there is. I think there is. You know, we're talked about that, and I loved it. You had it up on the screen. You know, we're created in, you know, I knew you when you were created in your mother's womb. I don't think Michael having Down syndrome, having that extra chromosome, I don't think it's a mistake. I think God and Michael was put here for a purpose, just with every other disabled person on the planet. I think they're here for a purpose. Those purposes are different. But I think that God doesn't make mistakes. And I think that the beauty of who Mike is what God intended him to be in the first place. Yeah. So
Amen.
If you ask me if he'll be changed when he gets to heaven, that's another question people ask. Do you think he'll be healed?
I think he's not.
Yeah, he doesn't mince words, does he? I think that Michael would not be Michael if we took away that other chromosome. And, you know, in some ways, I really hope that God leaves him the way he is, because, of course, the mother's perspective, I think he's awful perfect. He's naughty sometimes, but awful perfect.
I'm a good person, though.
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm the naughty one?
Yeah.
It is the truth, yeah. So, but, yeah, so I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but I think, yes, there can be that decision. I think it takes form, and I think we have to be careful not to overthink faith. That's just my little blurb there.
Even as you speak, I've got a zillion connections going off in my mind, and I'm just going to leave him back there.
Yeah, okay.
We have got one final question, I think, and we'll close with Sherry's question.
Yeah. Right. Well,
Well
just
said.
as you know, the person asked Jesus, well, what sin did this blind man, family or parents or him commit to be born blind?
Whose fault is it?
Whose fault is it? And Jesus says, it's no one. It's for my glory. It's so that you can see my glory. And that is the best gift that God has ever given to me, is that I have gotten to see God's glory through this magnificent person sitting next to me. And he just, you know, like I said, if you can't tell, I think everyone should have one in their life. And if you don't, go find one, because they're out there. And they're amazing, amazing human beings and
Wow.
amazing gifts from God.
Wow.
Couldn't say that when he was born.
Good
at
try,
first.
Mother.
Good try. Yeah, couldn't say that right away when he was born. There's pain with it. You know, we say he's our greatest burden, but our greatest blessing. And so, yeah.
And with that and with what you said, Sherry, I'm reading a book right now by Annie Dillard, and she writes this, it's called Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. And she writes this chapter on seeing, and what does it mean to see. She talks about how, like, our eyes can only see like 30% of what's out there, like as far as like the rays and the different things, whereas other animals in the kingdom can like see more of that. And she's talking about her own limitations, and I guess there's this part of me that wonders if like part of our process as a community is developing a new kind of sight, you know? And so like part of our faith is not just like, you know, God, can you heal my bad vision and take away my glasses, but can you give me like the kind of glasses that help me see like what you're doing like in the world?
Give me your eyes.
Yeah.
Let my heart see what your heart sees.
Yeah. Thank you two so much, you three, for being here.
welcome.
This is just cool.
You're welcome, guys.
Wow. What a cool day, huh? It really is. Well, you guys can go ahead and I'll take these from you and I'll invite my team up for music. Thank you.